massive fireballs, shredded metal, and a brand new rocket pushed to its limits. SpaceX's latest test didn't just make headlines. It ignited a fierce debate about how far and how fast we should push space technology. And this is the part most people miss. Moments like this failure may be exactly what SpaceX believes it needs to eventually succeed. During a major test campaign in South Texas, a new Starship Super Heavy Booster experienced a dramatic explosion on the ground, dealing a serious blow to SpaceX's near-term plans. The test took place at the company's Massey facility near Starbase, where the vehicle was undergoing checks designed to verify its systems before more demanding structural trials. This incident is already raising questions about engineering choices, safety margins, and whether SpaceX's aggressive testing philosophy is brilliant, reckless, or a bit of both. The rocket involved, called Booster 18, is the first of SpaceX's upgraded Block 3 or V3 Super Heavy designs, standing roughly 70 meters tall, about the height of a 20-story building. It was intended to support Starship Flight 12 and help bring a new launch complex, known as Pad 2 at Starbase, into regular use, making this vehicle a key piece in SpaceX's roadmap for the next phase of Starship flights. Losing such a Pathfinder booster at this stage is more than just a bad day at the pad. It forces SpaceX to rethink timelines, priorities, and possibly some design details. What actually happened? Independent live streams captured the moment the lower portion of the towering booster appeared to buckle and partially explode during a gas system pressure test around 4:04 a.m. local time. In the video, the base of the rocket seems to crumple, followed by debris and clouds of gas erupting around the test stand, a clear sign that something inside the system failed catastrophically. But here's where it gets controversial. Some observers see this as proof that the design is fragile, while others argue it shows why full-scale testing is essential before putting people or missions at risk. Despite the severity of the blast, the enormous booster somehow remained upright on the stand, which in itself is remarkable given the apparent violence of the event. Post-event images show a large hole ripped into the liquid oxygen tank and major structural damage to the aft or rear section of the rocket, indicating that critical load-bearing parts were compromised. For anyone new to rocketry, that kind of damage typically means the vehicle is no longer safe to repair for flight, because even hidden weaknesses could lead to failure later on. SpaceX's official response. SpaceX later acknowledged that Booster 18 suffered an anomaly during gas system pressure testing, a phrase often used in aerospace to describe an unexpected failure, without assigning blame too early. The company emphasized that the booster did not contain propellant, no Raptor engines had been installed, and all staff were kept at a safe distance, so there were no injuries despite the dramatic visuals. This safety setup is a core part of ground testing. Teams deliberately run risky procedures remotely, with the understanding that hardware can be sacrificed, but people cannot. Early assessments shared by SpaceX and outside specialists suggest the root cause may have been a problem with a composite overwrapped pressure vessel, COPV, a type of high-pressure tank used to store gas. These COPVs are thought to be housed in the rocket's side structures, known as chines, and a failure there may have set off a chain reaction that ultimately burst the main liquid oxygen tank. For beginners, a simple way to picture this is to imagine a small, super-pressurized bottle failing inside a larger tank. Once that smaller bottle ruptures, the sudden release of energy can hammer the surrounding structure until it gives way. Why this booster mattered? Booster 18 was not just another test article. It was the first of the next-generation Super Heavy boosters, designed to introduce SpaceX's V3, or Block 3, architecture. Its primary roles included flying the planned Starship Flight 12 and helping bring SpaceX's new Pad 2 launch infrastructure online at Starbase, both of which are important milestones for scaling up Starship operations. In other words, this booster was a bridge to higher cadence flights and more advanced missions, so its loss reverberates through the entire schedule. With the vehicle now heavily damaged and very likely beyond realistic repair for future flight, industry watchers anticipate that both the next Starship test launch and the first demonstration of the V3 design will slip until a replacement booster, possibly Booster 19, can be built, tested, and rolled out. Even if some parts can be reused for research or training, the time needed to design fixes, adjust manufacturing, and validate any changes could easily push key test dates further into the future. And this is the part most people miss. Delays like this can actually improve long-term reliability, even though they look like pure setbacks in the moment. The bigger picture. Failure by design? SpaceX has long argued that rapid, hardware-rich testing, including dramatic failures, is central to developing a fully reusable, super heavy lift launch system. The Starship and Super Heavy architecture is critical for the company's ambitions, expanding the Starlink satellite network, supporting deep space missions, and fulfilling NASA contracts tied to the Artemis lunar lander program. In this philosophy, each failure is treated less as an embarrassment and more as a data-gathering opportunity that accelerates learning, even if the public optics are messy. Critics, however, question whether this move fast and break rockets mindset is appropriate when the stakes include astronaut safety, taxpayer money, and the reliability of key NASA missions. Supporters counter that traditional, ultra-conservative development can be slower and more expensive, potentially delaying humanity's ability to access the Moon and Mars on a regular basis. So, the core controversy becomes, is SpaceX pioneering a smarter way to build rockets? Or normalizing a level of risk that would be unacceptable for other aerospace players? A setback or a necessary step? From a scheduling standpoint, the destruction of Booster 18 is clearly a setback, especially for the Block 3 rollout and Pad 2 activation. Yet from an engineering standpoint, uncovering weaknesses during ground tests, before the rocket is loaded with propellant, engines, or crew, can be seen as catching problems at the safest possible time. Many rocket programs throughout history have suffered similar test stand failures, and some of the most reliable vehicles flying today were shaped by painful early losses. The real question is how quickly SpaceX can analyze the data, implement design or process changes, and return to testing with a more robust configuration. If the suspected COPV issue is confirmed, engineers will need to decide whether to redesign the components, adjust pressures, change materials, or modify how these tanks are integrated into the chines. These technical decisions could influence not just the next booster, but the entire fleet of future V3 vehicles. Your turn. Smart risk or avoidable mistake? This incident sits at the crossroads of innovation and risk, and that's why it sparks such strong reactions. Some people see the explosion of Booster 18 as a natural, even healthy, result of pushing boundaries in pursuit of a fully reusable mega rocket that could transform space access. Others view it as a warning sign that the pace and style of testing may be cutting margins too close, especially with NASA's Artemis missions depending on Starship. So what do you think? Is SpaceX's fail fast, learn fast strategy a bold and necessary path to the future of spaceflight, or should there be stricter limits on how much risk is acceptable in these tests? Do you see Booster 18's explosion as a valuable lesson or an avoidable error? And if this were your tax money, would you feel differently about it? Share whether you agree, disagree, or have a completely different take, and explain why you think this kind of failure is either a sign of progress or a red flag about the way we are racing toward the next era of space exploration.